Welcome to Golden Spike National Historical Park.
Hey guys, welcome back to yet another vlog, and today we're going to Golden Spike National Historical Park, which this would be my second time visiting and actually get to have an actual experience at the park because I went about a year ago and everything was closed. So yeah, it's going to be a lot more fun to see it actually open, so let's get going.
Statistic has haunted me ever since. She told the class that in 1860, the census of the United States said the population was about 31 million people. Over the course of the Civil War, which lasted from 1861 to 1865, at least 750,000 people were killed. It's a big number. Would be a big number now, and it was a very big number back in the 1860s. At the moment, the population of the United States numbers about 332 million. If we take the numbers from the Civil War and apply them today, that would be like the United States fighting a civil war and having a death toll of a little over 8 million people. So if you can imagine 8 million people in this country dying over the course of 4 years, that's about how it felt in 1865. But the people that were watching this railroad being built and were working on it, they felt over the 6.5 years that it took to build this railroad, they were feeling that this is the moment. This truly is the moment where the Transcontinental Railroad was going to pull this country out of the depths of the Civil War, and it was going to unite the country. Now, we were united between North and South after the war was over, relatively. But we were not united east and west because it took so long to get from one side of the country to the other. If you were on the east coast of the United States and you wanted to get to the west coast, you had two options. You could either take a boat, take it around South America to the west coast, 4 to 6 months. If you're not feeling that, get a little seasick, that's fine. You can take the wagon across the plains. That also costs you 4 to 6 months. You cannot be called the United States of America if it takes 6 months to go from one side of the country to the other. It's just not feasible. From a politics standpoint, and especially from a military standpoint, you could not effectively defend a country if it takes 6 months to go from one side to the other. And I'll give you a hypothetical example of how that would have been just really impossible. So throughout the 1800s, the United States relationship that it had with Great Britain was not the best. There was the War of 1812, there was border disputes in Oregon, border disputes in Maine, border disputes essentially along the entire Canadian frontier. And then there was also the Trent Affair in 1861. Each of these instances had they could have become a full-blown war. And, that wouldn't have been great. But let's say one day Great Britain got so mad at the United States, so mad that they decided to invade Oregon. So they invade Oregon, and the news that Great Britain has invaded Oregon will probably take about 2 months to travel from Oregon to Washington, D.C. And then Washington, D.C. will be very upset. We'll raise an army, which would probably take about 4 months to do that, at least. Gather up all your supplies, all the men, all the wagons, all the guns, all the ammunition, all the food for the horses that are pulling the wagons, everything you can think of, and then they got to march across the country without the use of a transcontinental railroad. That would take at least 6 months. So when the military arrives in Oregon, about a year after they've learned that Oregon has been invaded, they'll look up. The flag will be red, white, and blue, but it won't be our flag. Now, once this transcontinental railroad was completed, that all changed. That 4 to 6 month journey was down to just 2 weeks. Now you can say the country was united. Now you can say the military can exert its influence over a wider, faster distance. Each other very slowly, but they're building towards each other. They're shortening that distance.
That's the Pacific Railroad Company.
So the grading crews are slowly building towards each other, and at some point they meet each other. The grading crews meet each other, but instead of stopping, they just continue building past each other. Congressman was not biased at all. In fact, he owns stock in both companies. So then this meeting comes about, and they decide on Promontory Summit, the location right behind me. This is where the Transcontinental Railroad would be completed, May 10th of 1869.
Coming back, Mom.
Mm-hmm.
So you
got Jupiter, which is the train from the Central Pacific Railroad, which came from the west from Sacramento. Golden Spike.
Is it underneath?
Probably can't read that, but I think it's kind of cool.
Oh, Jacob Shadow House.
Yeah, Jacob Shadows helped it. There you go. Hope you guys can read that. There's Jupiter, and there's the Visitor Center, Promontory Summit, way up there. And it's about a little higher than elevation back home, but I mean, we're about just a little above our normal elevation at our house, but we're kind of used to it. So while we wait for 119 to show up, I just want to show you guys the passport stamps I got today from Golden Spike. So you'll get a better look at it towards the end of the video, but here it is. Pretty cool. So here's the other one from the Visitor Center. That's of the day that it was finished, so that's pretty cool. So if you ever come to Golden Spike, I'm sure you always just come and see the trains first. The second one's not here yet, but always stop at the Visitor Center. And also, just if you go that way, towards the entrance at the Visitor Center, there's little papers for a little drive to a modern art area called Spiral Jetty. Really worth it. I would allow maybe 1 or 2 hours for that. But yeah, check it out.
bit of ash on us falling. That was pretty cool, I guess. There is 119.
If you can tell them you can arrive by railroad. Now imagine they're recruiting, a lot of people came from Europe. Now they're over in Europe trying to convert people, and you tell them in order to get to Utah, all you have to do is take an arduous boat journey across the Atlantic, and then you'll get to the shores of the United States, and it'll be a 4 to 6 month wagon ride out to Utah. Now that doesn't sound good, but if you tell them, just take a little boat journey, it's really not that bad, and you'll get to the United States, and it'll only be about a week or so to get to Utah. That's a better pitch. Now Brigham Young, he wanted the railroad to come to Utah, but he specifically wanted the railroad to come through Salt Lake City. That did not happen. It wasn't a political move or an anti-Mormonism move that was prevalent at the time. It had to do with water. These engines are very thirsty, very, very thirsty. The Jupiter 119 can use about 2,800 gallons of water, and that'll get them 15 to 30 miles. They need water.
There goes 119.
So the question is not getting to Salt Lake City, that's fine. They can figure that out. But what to do after? So if the railroad had gone to Salt Lake City, that means the railroad would have gone south of the Great Salt Lake, across the Great Salt Lake Desert, across the Bonneville Salt Flats. There's no water down there. There's at least a bit more water up here, your promontory. Brigham Young also did not want the railroad. He was a little worried about the type of people that it would bring. Now, does anybody drive through Corinne, Utah to get here? Corinne used to be a rager of a town. It had 30 saloons, it had gambling halls, and women that worked extra jobs at night. So pretty much everything you think of when you think of a Mormon community. He was a little worried because people at the time, they were trying to make Corinne the capital of Utah. That was a movement to try to take some of that power away from Brigham Young, away from the Mormons, away from Salt Lake City, and give it to Corinne, who boasted that there were no Mormons living there. That ended up not being the case, and today, Corinne is mostly a Mormon community. Probably guess transcontinental railroads did not stay here. That's why all 54 of you here are the sole residents of Promontory. This was the junction point. This was the terminus for the two companies. So if you're coming on the Union Pacific Railroad, from the east, you would stop here. You'd have to get off of all your stuff, and you'd have to walk over to the depot, which is where the visitor center now stands. You'd walk over to the depot, and you'd buy a ticket for the Central Pacific Railroad. Now, at this time, the two companies did not synchronize their schedules. So you'd buy a ticket, and they could tell you, very real possibility, they would say, you're in luck. The next Central Pacific train will be leaving in 22 hours. And there was not a lot here. Not a lot of amenities, not a lot of anything.
We're both at a train. 119 and Jupiter. And I also like how they have this old-timey American flag. I'm not sure which version it is. I can't count how many stars, but promontory. So the major difference between the 119 And Jupiter is that they're running it off of coal at the moment, and then Jupiter off of wood. And you can see the giant headlights, the steam vents, and the 119 has murals on it. So you can see there's like a mountain man on this one. Here is the two trains in front of Promontory Summit. Pretty picturesque, if I say so myself. We are here at our final stop of the day here at Golden Spike, the Big Phil Trail. Last time we came, we hiked, or we went to the, I guess you could say it was the, well, we went to the viewpoint at the Big Phil, and today we'll get to hike it. So, let's get started. You can see here that there's two grades on the Big Phil Trail. We are currently on the upper one, and then there's the lower one we'll be returning on. And if you're interested on the tour, they have an audio tour for you to listen to if you call a certain number. But we're going into that little, like, ditch they dug for the trains to go through, because there's clearly on these paths. So we're walking where railroads used to be. And I think that's where rock slides can happen on this trail. So just be a little careful. But I guess now we're going into this little ditch they dug. So that way they can have a pretty even railroad line. So we are still on the Big Phil Trail, and we've made it to this kind of ditch they made. And you can look here and you get a nice view of the Promontory Peninsula of the Salt Lake, and parts of the Salt Lake, and parts of the wildlife management area right there. And here is the big kind of ditch that we're going to be walking through. Once again, there is an audio tour for this, so if you ever come on this trail, check out the audio tour. It's pretty neat. You guys need to check this out. This canyon echoes. Echo! I guess not really that much, but it does echo, which I think is pretty cool. Look how steep these are as well. Dang. So yeah, we are not yet at the Big Phil, but at this cool overlook of the main park road here. So last time we came, we did that viewpoint down there. That's the Big Phil viewpoint. And we got to see the Big Phil. And then we are walking, that's the lower part of the trail that we will be doing in just a minute. But look at that view, that's really nice. So just a second ago, I saw a white-tailed deer run down from up there across the trail. Wonder if we'll get to see it. But here's another one of the ditches they dug. But yeah, this is really cool. I'm really liking this hike. How about you, Jacob? Are you liking it?
Yeah, hi.
Now, this is my brother, Jacob. He really likes trains, so we've really been enjoying Golden Spike. Oh, there's another deer! Another deer! Oh, another one! There was some deer just run across, and I got that on film. That is neat. It's always cool when you get to see some wildlife when you're out on the trail. So we've made it to the Big Phil, and yeah, we saw some deer just a minute ago, but yeah, so we're ready to head back. Yeah, so we are now on the lower part of it. Just have to kind of walk a bit close to the sagebrush, but hey, it's still a very nice trail. It's like the only trail at Golden Spike, but well worth it if you have an hour to spare here at Golden Spike. Nice job, Jacob. That's where we're going next, but there's the Big Phil. So there's a viewpoint just down there, as you can see there, and that's where we went last time. Yeah. Yeah. So we're going that way now. So we are on our way back from the Big Phil, and we're now walking on the lower trail, which is kind of right next to a steep drop-off. But then again, this is where the railroad went through, just through the and it's like right next to this big drop-off here. Which, honestly, mad respect to the people who built this and to the train drivers or the conductor. Yeah.
You can do it.
Yep. They literally fit a train on that fill. So also right off this trail is a little cave. I'm not sure what it was used for, but yeah, it's pretty cool. This is a really cool spot on the trail. I'm gonna go through these weeds, but hey, someone biking that. It's not, it's just open ground. So what I'm gonna say about the Big Fill Trail, definitely do it. Like, so far we haven't run into a single person on this trail, which, hey, I mean, it's a plus. You'd think it'd be since it's the only trail in the park that people would want to hike it. Well, apparently not. So, yeah, so really, the Big Fill Trail is really nice, and I would honestly recommend doing it. It's a pretty flat trail. It's not paved. It's paved with gravel. But definitely check it out. It's really cool. It's like a mile loop. And it's super flat. So definitely come and check it out. So this is pretty much, the Big Fill grade is also the same as the one for the East Auto Tour, which I would recommend doing, which we did the last time we went to Golden Spike. And over there you can see some other cool sites like Chinese Arch and whatnot. Yep, there's the East Auto Tour. So that concludes the Big Hill hike. It's about a mile long, pretty flat. Like I said, I would recommend. And that's it for our trip here to Golden Spike today. Thank you guys for watching. And remember to visit a national park as soon as you can.